Hello, and welcome back to the World of Wysteria. This evening, I'll be reading part 2 of chapter 10. So that's why I smell lilacs before you appear, said Will. Yes, I suppose so, she said. I don't understand how that happens, though. I should ask Jeremy if it makes any sense to him. She paused, then smiled. I wonder if he can smell me coming too. It's strange that you use lilacs as a key, he said. There are no lilacs here, at least none that I've seen. That doesn't matter, said Emily. It's the feeling I get when I think of lilacs that's important. The feeling is what gets me here. Why lilacs, though? He asked. The first night I came to your world, something about your garden reminded me of a park I used to play in as a child, she explained. It was near my grandparents' house. We would visit them every spring, always when the lilacs were in bloom. Thinking about that smell triggers those childhood memories. Not so much the visual images, but how I felt at the time. When I wandered through your garden, I got the same feeling. And now, imagining the scent of lilacs helps establish my connection, my emotional connection to Wysteria. Emily then walked over to one of the benches and sat down. Will followed, taking a seat on the railing. The more often you travel to a world, the easier it is to return, she continued. For example, I can decide I'm coming here before I fall asleep. Then, I jump through the blackness directly to your world. Blackness? Yes, she replied. Sounds very menacing, doesn't it? But it's not. It's very neutral, comforting, if anything. Is this blackness a place in the dream universe? He asked. Not exactly, she said. I'm not sure where it is, but I think of it as an in-between place, a place from which I travel. It's where my dreams begin. If I'm looking for a new world to explore, I try to visualize or emotionalize the kind of place I'd like to visit. Then I wait in the darkness. I wait until I feel a signal from a world that matches my frequency. If I want to visit a world I've been to before, I'll concentrate on the key, and I can usually find its signal quickly. However, if I'm going to a place I've visited a number of times, like Wysteria, I can use the key before I fall asleep. It doesn't always work, but often I'll simply wake up in that world and bypass the blackness altogether. At least it feels that way. I couldn't do that when I first started traveling, she said, but I'm getting better at it. Can you travel directly from one dream world to another? He asked her. You mentioned that the older drifter didn't go home, that he went to another world. Yes, I've been able to do that, with help and on my own, she told him. But it takes some practice, and you definitely need a strong key. Emily then yawned. I probably don't have much time left, she said. Yes, said Will. I'm getting drowsy too. It has been quite a day. We can't stay here tonight, as much as I'd like to, she said. It wouldn't be smart. Our friends might return. And I may not see you tomorrow. Paying Jeremy another visit? He asked. Maybe, she said. But there's another friend I want to see. A traveler. Would you mind if I invite her to the festival? Emily's request took him by surprise. He wasn't comfortable with the idea of having visitors here, even if they weren't the troublesome kind. But after giving it a moment's thought, he decided it might be interesting to meet some of her fellow travelers. Not at all, he said. Please ask her to come. She thanked him with a smile. How do you go about finding another traveler, he asked. Finding Charlotte is pretty easy, Emily replied, followed by a mischievous giggle. But we broke one of the cardinal rules. We can contact each other in the waking world and arrange to meet somewhere. Why is that such a crime, he said. Our two lives, the waking and dreaming, should always remain separate, she told him. Otherwise, all sorts of complications can arise. Charlotte and I were young and relatively inexperienced when we met, and we didn't see the harm, although she probably should have known better. We thought it would be fun. We only contact each other by email, and we never discuss our waking lives. But still, how will she find this place, he asked. Will you give her directions of some kind? I assume she couldn't use your key, since that's a personal thing. Directions help, said Emily. You can describe the world to someone else and try to give them a sense of what it's like to be there. But that's pretty unreliable. They'd probably never find the place on their own. I'll give her a hand, so to speak. I'll drag her along with me. How does that work, he asked her. As I told you, she said, when two people are actually touching, they're bound together in the same world. Usually, that means that both people are stuck where they are. Neither one can leave. But, under the right circumstances, it's possible for them to travel to another world, as long as they go together. For example, if Charlotte wants to visit Wysteria with me, I'll take her hand and attempt to travel here, and she'll come along for the ride. Of course, I will give her directions so that she's somewhat in tune with the signal. That makes it easier. If I didn't give her any directions, but she was in a totally neutral state, not putting up any resistance, I might be able to bring her here. However, if she were fighting against me, I doubt I could force her to come with me. It would still be possible, but it becomes a battle of wills. And making someone leave is much harder than trying to stay put. Chances are she'd win, and we wouldn't go anywhere. Emily yawned again. It's time to go, she said. I know you probably have more questions, but I hope that gives you the basic idea. It does, said Will. Although she was correct, he still had many questions. I'll miss seeing you tomorrow night, she said, but it will give you a chance to prepare the town for the celebration. I'll miss you too, he told her. Good luck finding your friend. Thanks, said Emily. She then stood up and gave Will a parting kiss. And thank you for defending me today. If that drifter had gotten his hands on me, I could have been in big trouble. Okay, that concludes chapter 10, and we will return very quickly with chapter 11.